There were battlefields the world remembers, and then there were battlefields the world tried to forget. And when people speak of the Second World War, they picture artillery shaking the horizon, aircraft carving white scars across the sky, boots striking frozen ground in disciplined rhythm, radio broadcasts promising victory or demanding sacrifice. But beneath those headlines and beneath those maps filled with arrows, there existed another front. One without uniforms and without medals. A front hidden behind dim curtains and coded paperwork, where policies were signed in quiet offices and lives were redirected without ceremony. Because governments understood something they rarely said aloud. Armies were not only built from weapons and strategies, but from young men suspended between fear and boredom far from home. And leaders believed morale had to be managed just as carefully as ammunition. So facilities were organized, inspections scheduled, regulations drafted in clinical language that disguised deeply human consequences. Buildings across occupied Europe and Asia quietly changed purpose. A boarding house became a rest center, a hotel floor restricted to military access, a cafe transformed into a monitored space of transaction, and everything appeared orderly on paper, which was precisely the intention. Because structure gives the illusion of control even when dignity is absent. In territories under Nazi authority, networks of military brothels were established under official oversight with stated goals of discipline and health. Women were recruited in different ways depending on the region. Some were told it was legitimate employment. Others were cornered by poverty, displacement, or pressure, and documentation followed them wherever they were assigned. Medical examinations were enforced. Soldiers received permits or vouchers. Time was measured. Behavior was regulated, and language softened reality into bureaucratic terminology. Meanwhile, across the globe, Imperial Japan developed what it referred to as comfort stations, with similar claims of maintaining order among troops. Yet thousands of women from Korea, China, the Philippines, and beyond found themselves transported into systems they did not fully understand. Some misled by promises of factory work, some compelled by circumstance, some pushed by forces larger than their individual choices. And the phrase "comfort woman" would later echo through decades of debate because it sounded gentle while masking something far more complex. Yet even outside Axis territories, the issue was not absent. Allied forces also faced the question of how to manage morale for soldiers stationed abroad for years. And wherever large numbers of troops gathered, local economies shifted. Districts near bases adapted. Informal arrangements emerged. Some tolerated quietly by authorities, others existing in the gray spaces between policy and denial. War transforms supply chains and food production, but it also transforms human relationships, and in bombed cities where factories lay silent and wages disappeared. Some women saw few options left. Survival became negotiation. Companionship became currency. Ration cards became lifelines, and after liberation, celebrations faded. Another kind of reckoning began. In parts of France, public humiliation ceremonies targeted women accused of collaboration. Heads were shaved in crowded squares, as cameras recorded scenes meant to symbolize moral cleansing. Yet historians later questioned how easily survival could be separated from accusation, because war rarely offers simple choices. In Germany, as order collapsed near the end of the conflict, entire cities entered states of uncertainty, where safety was unpredictable and fear traveled faster than information. And across the Pacific, occupation brought its own transformations as districts reorganized again to accommodate new powers. Governments that once condemned exploitation now faced practical dilemmas they struggled to regulate. But beyond these policies were individuals whose names seldom appear in archives. The seamstress whose workshop vanished beneath rubble. The school teacher who answered an advertisement she believed was clerical work. The farmer's daughter trading companionship for access to food in winter, their stories rarely printed yet woven into the fabric of the conflict. Soldiers wrote letters home filled with sanitized descriptions because censorship filtered reality, and because shame is often quieter than gunfire. Some formed temporary attachments. Others treated encounters as transactions. Some carried private guilt long after demobilization, while others buried memory beneath decades of silence. And when tribunals convened after the war, their focus settled on political architects and military commanders, while the hidden front lingered in testimony waiting to be heard. In Japan, survivors would spend decades seeking recognition, pushing against denial, asking history to record what official documents once minimized. In Europe, researchers eventually uncovered bureaucratic trails that revealed how thoroughly systems had been institutionalized. Cold memos and inspection logs, confirming what personal memories had long suggested. And perhaps the reason these stories took so long to enter mainstream awareness is because they exist at an uncomfortable intersection between vulnerability and stigma, between survival and judgment, between policy and intimacy. They challenge the simplified narratives of hero and villain, and instead reveal the complicated terrain of human endurance under pressure. War amplifies inequalities, and those already marginalized by poverty or occupation status were often the most vulnerable to recruitment or coercion. And when Reconstruction began, cities rebuilt bridges and factories, but rebuilding identity proved more fragile. Some women married and never spoke of their wartime experiences again. Some emigrated seeking distance from memory. Some testified late in life when silence grew heavier than fear, and the hidden front remained largely without monuments because it did not fit neatly into victory speeches. Yet its existence shaped countless lives and influenced post-war societies in subtle but lasting ways, reminding us that war is not confined to trenches or skies, but extends into offices drafting policies, into homes where food disappears, into rooms lit by a single lamp where decisions are made under pressure few can imagine. History remembers generals and invasions and surrender documents, but beneath those milestones are quieter stories that ripple across generations. Stories of survival negotiated in the smallest spaces. Stories that reveal how power moves through institutions and settles upon individuals. And perhaps acknowledging this hidden front does not diminish the broader narrative of the war, but deepens it. Because understanding conflict fully requires looking beyond the loudest battles and into the shadows, where policies meet personal lives, where survival reshapes morality, and where the echoes of a global conflict continue long after the last official shot was fired.